it should also be looked at as a vitamin, as a long-term nutritional supplement. I call it like an electrical vitamin or electrical nutrition. The body runs a lot on voltage. And there are many functions that occur in the body based on how high your voltage electricity is.
Hey everybody, I'm Lori Schulweis.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you.
Every week we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today we are learning all about pulsed electromagnetic fields. What is that?
Let's get started.
He's been in business development in the pulsed electromagnetic field of wellness and performance market for 7 years. He specializes in educating private and business users on the benefits of PEMF in an easy-to-understand way, which he's going to explain to us today.
Right.
He believes his clients should never feel like they have to figure things out alone.
He's going to help us figure out things today. Please welcome our guest, Joe LeHotay.
Excellent, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Welcome to Everybody Talks.
Yes, love to be here. Thanks, you guys.
Tell us more about yourself. I feel like that was a very brief little intro.
And how you got involved in this.
Yeah, good question. I've been involved with Pulse, with PEMF for 7.5 years. And basically prior to that, I was in sales, in business, business development, sales for close to 20 years with a few different companies. All of them got acquired, but I never got an exit payout. So I had to always keep working and find the next job. So I went from place to place a few times. And towards the end of the last one, I was approached by a friend of mine who asked me if I'd ever heard of PEMF. And I had 20 years earlier, basically, almost 20 years earlier. And I was familiar with the technology somewhat. I knew that it got results. I knew people who had used it for a number of things and loved it, but I didn't really know too much about it. But he had joined on with this company, Pulse, and recommended that I just take a look at it. And so I just sort of blew him off and said, okay, let me know how it's going in a couple weeks. And he called me a couple days later and he said, one of the reps in Chicago where I was living at the time just left and there's a spot open. Would you like to talk to Pulse? And so I talked to Pulse, and it's the best thing I've ever done, funnest thing I've ever done. You guys saw, some of the energy that was, at the biohacking conference. That's sort of how my life is. And so it's something that I've really never looked back on.
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah,
I could sit on that thing all day.
It was just interesting where you moved it around your body.
But I think we need to tell our listeners
what that is.
Because we actually talked about like some of the things that we tried at the biohacking conference. And Lori was funny because she would be like, this was great. And I felt like this. She goes, Jen, what did it do? What does it do?
What does it do?
What does it do? So tell us, I guess, first explain this PEMF and what it is and how people can benefit from it.
Yeah, so PEMF basically stands for pulsed electromagnetic fields. So that's the acronym. People sometimes call it PEMF for short, which is a little bit of a tongue twister. But basically what it does is it energizes the body through the infusion of a safe pulsed magnetic field. And so it literally puts energy into the body to exercise and stimulate and energize depleted cells. And so anytime we have pathology, injury, surgery, stress, fatigue, overuse, anything in the body that, we'd like to resolve, so to speak, it's usually a lack of energy in the cells where sometimes the body just can't pull off resolving that issue in maybe as thoroughly or as quickly a time frame as we might, desire or even expect. And so Pulse or PEMF just infuses bulk energy into the process of the body's own healing and regenerating and regulating and even resting processes, and makes those processes better from a supportive, nutritive energy standpoint. And with something like Pulse, because there are myriad products on the market that maybe we'll touch on later. But something like Pulse, it's a tactile, experiential feeling. So you guys tried it. You know what I mean. When you sit on it or lie on it or put it on a specific part of your body, you literally feel the energy going in, and you feel your body responding to that energy, which makes it super interesting too.
Yeah. It's super. I feel like everyone can benefit from it because, I mean, all the things you just mentioned, you know, we all have fatigue, we all have overuse, you know, whether it's an injury or just wear and tear on your body. And I felt like, and I have questions kind of personally about what I was feeling when I was on there. We can get into that in a minute, but I wanted to ask about the different applications you said. Like, so what we tried was we lied on this bed, this mat, but there are what are some of the other type of like accessories and things that Pulse has?
Yeah, so you can go anywhere from full body. And so Pulse in particular has 3 full body accessories. There's that zero gravity lounger that you guys got to try. And you were some of the first few hundred that have tried that. That was the first public unveiling. It was a pre-release of that product. So that product is scheduled to release later this year. So we came to the show with all the different colors and things like that, but that's a brand new pre-released product from Pulse. So that's one of the full body accessories. We also have a full body contour bed, which sits on top of a massage table or on the floor, where you're basically lying horizontally. There are a few curves in it to elevate your head and your legs. Then we also have a flat version of that same one, full body mat. And then we have a chair, which is right behind me. Here, it's a little off camera, but it's basically either a rocking chair or a flat chair that you sit in, and it pulses from the back of your knees to, your shoulders, depending on the person's height. And then there are 5 smaller, what we call focus accessories that you can place on a specific joint, let's say, to sandwich back to front on a shoulder, or side to side or back to front on a knee joint, or a hip or the head. And then we have other squares that range in size from a foot by 12 inch by 12 inch, all the way up to about 2 feet by 2 feet, that you can either lie on, sit on, hug in front of you, apply to different areas of the body, to get, a focus specific boost of energy into a specific body area. And so most sessions on Pulse are a combination of full body application and then focused application based on what sort of the person comes in with and wants to address.
So, and that's what we used, right? So we were on the bed, but then we also had those squares that you just mentioned, and we were putting those on different parts. And that was kind of my question. So when I was moving that square around on my body, there were certain spots, like I wasn't feeling the sensation where the square was. So like, in other words, if I was holding it on my torso, I was feeling it in my back, my lower back, or I was feeling it in my quad, like my legs started. So what is that doing? Like, does that just mean that that's where my cells need more energy?
Yeah,
generally speaking, yes, that's what it means. That your body's telling you through this manifestation of a sensation, right? Oh, I'm feeling it really here. It's the body telling you that that's where it's absorbing that energy. And so with your application where you guys were on the bed and then you had that cube, that square on top of you and you're moving it around, that's literally creating a push-pull effect. So the bed from behind you or under you is pushing the field up, and the cube is pulling the field up. So essentially where you place that cube, if you're moving it around, it's moving the concentration of that intensity, if you will, of the magnetic field around where you move that cube, because now the cube is adding synergy. It's adding a pull effect to what the bed is pushing. And so through that front pad, it's pulling it all the way through. So it's creating more of a constant rate of strength where you have that cube situated, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. That was the coolest feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think I put it on my hip and felt it in my back. And I think I put it somewhere and I felt it in the back of my neck, which I forgot where that was. I put cube, but it was very interesting, like to think like, oh, this is really where.
I mean, I thought it was so cool. But are there specific like conditions or ailments that it's most effective in treating?
Yeah, well, like pretty much any therapeutic, wellness therapeutic device or approach, most people are drawn to these things for unresolved pain, chronic pain, pain related to injury, something going on that's really bothering them pain wise,
Okay.
discomfort wise, also range of motion, things. From sports to injuries to workout fatigue to just general, recovery, tightness, stiffness. So a lot of people approach something like Paul's because they have unresolved pain of some sort. And sometimes something they've been dealing with for could be decades. And they've been, chronic lower back, chronic knee, whatever it might be, a shoulder, an old shoulder injury that still bugs them or flares up from time to time. So a lot of it is around pain and discomfort and range of motion type things. I would say the second thing is any type of recovery. So recovery can mean I'm recovering from surgery. I'm recovering from a stressful event. I'm recovering from travel. It could really be, or even again, workouts, physically performing of some sort. You just ran a marathon. You just worked out, on your daily routine, and now you need to recover. So I think recovery in general is probably the second biggest thing. And then the third biggest thing is people who treat it like a long-term nutritive source for the body and want to create sort of an environment of long-term resiliency from an energetic standpoint. So I would say the first one is give me something right now because this is really bugging me. The second thing is I need something to get me back to where I was before some event happened. And the third thing is I just want to create, for lack of probably a tired term by now, a bulletproof environment, in my body or in the body of my family and close friends or my clients in the issue of someone running it as in their wellness business.
In their wellness business.
How long lasting are the effects? I mean, do you feel good for how long?
Great question. That all depends on you.
Yeah.
And so if you think of the body as, well, depending on what you read, there's anywhere from 30 trillion to 100 trillion cells in your body. And they're all capacitors. So they're all batteries. These cells take in a charge, an electrical charge, and hold it. Well, as we get older and other factors, our ability to hold that charge in our cells can be reduced. And so, it could depend on age. It could depend on nutritional profile. It could depend on hydration profile, your body's ability to hold on to that charge. But it usually can last anywhere from a couple hours to a lot of time, many days. So depending on the person.
And I would imagine like how consistently you're using the devices as well, right?
Yeah. How often?
Great point. Yeah. Which brings up a topic I talk a lot about. I like when people look at this more as a vitamin and less as an aspirin. Although hearkening back to why people come to it, most people come to it because of its aspirin effects. Its effects on pain, its effects on something, urgent that is occurring, right now or has been occurring for years and years and years that you want to deal with. But it should also be looked at as a vitamin, as a long-term nutritional supplement. I call it like an electrical vitamin or electrical nutrition. The body runs a lot on voltage. And there are many functions that occur in the body based on how high your voltage electricity is, basically. And, think of just like your phone can do thousands, if not millions of different things. And if you talk about all the calculations and all of the things that the processor is doing and all the things that the memory and the inner workings of the phone or any computer are doing, it literally is billions of things, sometimes per second. If you unplug it from the wall, it does 0 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your phone runs out of charge, it does 0 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you think of the body, since it's made up of cells that are batteries, in a similar way as you think of your phone or a computer or any electronic device, even though these devices, like the body, can do miraculous numbers of things and miraculous things, some things we intentionally, make it do when we press buttons on our phone or use our body. Sometimes there are things that we have no idea are occurring, both with our phone and electronic devices and in our body. So very, very similar lexicon of how these two things that we're very familiar with in everyday life, ourselves and our devices in this case, utilize energy and electricity in particular. And so I like changing people's mindsets very quickly because, as I said, they'll usually come for a specific thing. I like changing people's mindsets to say the reasons that it helps here, it can also help generally, rather than having them look at it as something quick and something that's only used when there's an issue. I want people to use it as a supplement. You don't take a vitamin when you're sick. You take a vitamin every day, and you don't take one bottle of vitamins and then stop for the rest of your life either. So I would think of it and encourage people to think of it in much, much the same way.
Yeah. So more preventative nature. I mean, both, but I love that analogy of like our devices and our bodies. I mean, that's so true. Sometimes I feel like I'm unplugged.
I know.
I know. Somebody needs to charge me back up.
Totally. And people say it without even being conscious of it. They say, oh, I need to go on vacation. I just need to recharge my batteries.
Right. Recharge my batteries.
Totally.
Yeah.
They don't even know what they're saying. For some reason, they're unconsciously sort of
using that.
Vocalizing that.
100%.
Now, I would imagine, obviously there's science to this and there's, research and studies and things. Do they look at like the cells? I'm just trying to think of like, how do they see the benefits from a scientific standpoint? Is there a way to measure this in people's bodies? What does that look like? Yeah,
some of the studies that are out there talk about, and this gets into a little bit of the wonky sort of more biohacking stuff around mitochondria and ATP production, cellular respiration, and just how the cell functions to do its jobs. There aren't that many things the cells do if you just sort of think of it as a high level, helping the body uptake nutrients, oxygen, hydration, and best utilize those things to create more mitochondria, more energy that then downstream provides that resiliency, that healing, that recovery, that resting, that ability to deal with stress. And so all of those things occur because there's enough energy production in the cell. And so if cells are backing it back out to our initial sort of conversation, if cells are depleted, the body's not able to do those things as well. And so adding that additional energy helps those processes take place. And so we're right kind of back to where we started. But yes, you can look at studies, first of all, not only around any condition you might be interested in. And although PEMF is not a medical device, Pulse is not a medical device, we don't make claims around medical conditions. But if you were to go on PubMed and search PEMF and blank, you'd probably find something on almost anything that you're interested in. And so from mitochondrial improvement, production of the quantity of mitochondria, which in turn produces more ATP in the body. Those types of things, are out there. I can't believe I didn't go on PubMed before we started talking about this, because that's like my jam. I'm usually doing all the because I'm so interested in what that looks like and how they measure it, and those effects. But so then, are there specific frequencies or intensities that are more effective for certain conditions? Like, how do you
And I know what we experienced was like, you know, in our headphones, it would tell us when to turn up the dial or change this or do that. So I guess would the average person know what frequency or intensity that they should be, you know, at using
sure.
this at?
And so I guess maybe to answer that question, we'll start at a higher level and talk about the various types of PEMF.
Yes. Okay.
Because with some, you are concerned with frequency a little more than you with others.
Okay.
And so maybe we could back up so that maybe that what I just said will become maybe a little bit clearer, I hope.
Okay.
But there's a broad spectrum of PEMF devices available on the market today, some of which you may have heard of. So, a lot of them are referred to as PEMF mats. When people talk about a PEMF mat, they are generally not talking about something like pulse. They're talking about something that I would call more of a resonant frequency type PEMF. These would be the beamer mats of the world, the higher dose mats of the world.
Okay.
So there are, I would say that probably 90% of the PEMF market of users are using devices like that, like I just mentioned.
Okay.
They're mats. And if you've ever experienced one of those, it simply doesn't have the same experience as a device such as Pulse. You don't feel anything. Not to say that there aren't benefits. There are benefits to it. Just like there are benefits to going outside and standing barefoot in the grass, lying on the beach, you're receiving the Earth's resonance, the Earth's resonant frequency, right? You don't feel a sensation on your shoulder when you're laying on the beach or in the lower back or anything like that. But when you get up, you might feel great. And if you spend a week at the beach, relaxing, recharging your batteries, like we said, you might feel awesome. Just mood, your sleep might be better. You might notice better circulation in some ways that you might, sort of tangibly notice that in your own life. So there are many benefits to it, but there's not that tangible sensation to it. On the other end of the spectrum resides things like Pulse and a few others that are on the market that provide that tactile feeling where you're putting it and parts of your body are lighting up, telling you that that's where it's receiving the energy. And I would call that variety of PEMF, as opposed to resonant frequency PEMF, I would call it impulsive PEMF. So it's literally providing a physical impulse to the cells that you can feel. And that is, largely regulated depending on the sort of the sophistication of the particular brand or device. You can regulate these from very sort of feathery to, I want to really feel like I'm getting worked on, deep tissue, sort of magnetic massage, if you will. And so on some of the frequency-based devices, you may be more concerned with dialing in a specific frequency that resonates with a particular organ system or tissue type in the body. On the impulse devices, it's achieved in a little bit different way. These devices are hitting every cell in a given area or the whole body, as you guys know, at the same time. And whatever frequency those particular cells resonate at, that's what they ring out at. And so we're not dictating the frequency and then pointing it to a specific part of the body that, quote unquote, wants that frequency.
Gotcha. We're
hitting the body with the same impulse, and all the cells resonate at their own frequency. It would be the same, similar to having 10 different size stones and standing on, a pier over a pond and dropping them all at the exact same time. All of the stones are going to have different size ripples that they create, right? It's the same body of water. The stones are different. Yeah, they're all hitting at the same time. And so it's just something that's accomplished in a slightly different way.
So that's why you're feeling it in different spots, different ways, because even though it's all the same, parts of your body need something more or less or whatever that is. Is that right?
Well, your body's responding to that same
it.
frequency in a different way.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's an easy way to think about it for sure. And so I would say users of a system like Pulse on the more impulse PEMF side are a little bit less concerned with how fast they're running the pulse rate. And if you might remember, we can change that. We can slow it down.
I do remember
and
that.
we can quicken it. And people generally, a lot of times, will prefer one over the other. So we use a balance of what's the application you're trying to achieve. Is it a joint? Is it chronic pain? Is it soft tissue? Is it neurologic? That's one piece of the sort of the combination to how we balance the settings. The other one is preference. So there's a component of preference that I want to keep in there that some people, even though the textbook, so to speak, might say use a slower pulse rate on this particular application, they prefer a faster pulse rate. I would move towards their preference as much as I can, because I want them, more importantly than following a specific set of rules, to utilize the vitamin. I want them to take the vitamin.
Right.
If they can't swallow the vitamin because it's too big and they won't take it because of that, they're not going to get the benefits no matter, and if they end up cutting it into tiny pieces and then maybe only taking half of them or even taking all of them over a different period of time, they might not feel the benefits or get the benefits to that either. So I'd rather have them, do something the way they prefer rather than,
it'll
the way
keep
the textbook
keep them coming back.
Might say, keep them coming back. And I think I may have said that backwards, but hopefully the point came across.
I know what you mean. I always say that to my clients about exercise. It's like, if you hate running, you're not going to run. You're not. Don't make that part of your routine.
Do something you enjoy.
Exactly.
Do something that you like.
Exactly.
But interestingly, so you mentioned like this resonance. We're sitting here right now with our feet on a grounding mat.
Me too.
Are you? Okay. And I don't know. People have asked me. They're like, "What do you think? Do you love it?" I'm like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if it's.
I don't know if it's doing anything. I don't
feel anything. So I much prefer like the impulse.
Yes.
I like feeling. Although I will say, to your point about frequency or intensity, I was a little nervous. I turned it up and I'm like, oh my God, I feel this so much, but like part of me liked it. But so you're saying that there's no damage that can be done. It's just kind of your preference. I mean, there's a baseline of a guideline, but it's really the preference of the person to how strong or not strong they want to feel it.
Yeah. Which opens up another topic. So, great question. We refer to our version of PEMF, and some others do as well, as cellular exercise. And so
that makes sense.
Similar lexicon to physical exercise. And why do we call it that? Because the physiological impact on the cells is similar, if not the same, as physical exercise. And so the respiration, the circulation, the mitochondria production, the benefits you get from physical exercise can be achieved with PEMF. So that's good news for people who cannot exercise for some reason. And so if someone's, injured or otherwise, non-ambulatory or incapacitated in some way where they can't physically exercise, they can receive the benefits in a passive manner from PEMF. Also, just like physical exercise, it can be overdone. And so you can get overuse, soreness, just like physical exercise, or perhaps a detoxification reaction, because we didn't really get into this, in detail, but when we use PEMF to exercise these low energy depleted cells, like we talked about in the beginning, that result from whether it's pathology or something going on in the body that we want to resolve. A lot of times the cells, when they're low energy and depleted, they're sort of crumpled up like raisins. And when they're crumpled up like raisins, instead of like big juicy grapes, they could be holding in things that need to escape, like toxins and metabolic waste from the body. So things that would otherwise be able to want to detox, out of your body.
Right.
And also holding out those healing components, like those nutrients and that oxygen from helping the body to heal. So when we exercise and stimulate the cells through that, tactile PEMF, it opens the cells for better uptake, more efficient uptake of the good stuff and more efficient detox. And so if you have a bunch of clumpy cells, essentially, for lack of a more scientific term, and you stimulate those cells and they open up, well, now some toxins may go systemic in your body and you may want to flush using good hydration, maybe even a binder in certain situations, like a fulvic humic, compound, that kind of thing, to help your body get rid of these toxins that have now sort of come out to play, so to speak.
That's interesting. Yeah, I did think about that when you were talking about the push-pull. I was thinking, like, is it pulling anything out? Is it pulling toxins and things out of the cells? So sounds like yes. Yeah,
definitely could. So to the question, can you overdo it? The answer is yes, you can overdo PEMF. You just have to listen to your body again. I wouldn't have had you ladies come in for that first time at biohacking, turn the machine all the way up, put that cube on your head or on your gut, let's say, and just said, sit there and be quiet no matter how it feels. I would never have done that.
Right. And we would have listened.
We would have done whatever you said, Joe.
Yeah.
We would have done anything.
We were doing whatever anyone told us.
I know.
We were laid down in this cold, icy, freezing
we did everything there.
Sure.
We tried it all.
And in a lot of cases, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
We were willing and able to do anything.
Very were.
But you touched a little bit on when you mentioned like neurological. And I'm just curious, like, is there anything to the effect of, like, any effects on mental health, anxiety, that type of thing, depression, issues like that? Does PEMF do anything to, I don't want to say treat, but to support that?
Yeah, and you're right. It doesn't treat any of these things. I will start out the whole thing by saying the body is an amazing creation, and the design of it is to heal and adapt. And that's really all it does.
Right.
It tries anyway. And if given the proper support, sometimes the things it's able to accomplish are incredible. And even hearkening back to the technology conversation, the phones and the computers. I mean, this stuff is not child's play. These things can do amazing things when given the proper energy. So that's kind of the overlay of the whole thing. Think about someone who might be depressed. Think about someone who might have anxiety, and think about what some of the root causes to those things might be. And a lot of times, if you can change that person's energetic profile, in other words, give that person energy, what might happen? Creativity, more thought paid to activity and exercise, more activity thought to managing their own wellness and maybe nutrition and what they, consume, what they spend their time on. And so energy can provide a platform for lots of different things. I think adding energy to that population of patients would grab a good deal of low-hanging fruit. I'm not sort of idealistic about it, but, I'm not, sort of touting miracles, but I am saying that energy can get you a long way down some of those paths that you may not have expected.
It's almost like a byproduct could be that, you could have some improvement in mental health just due to your body feeling better and your cells being re-energized.
Just like people ask me, they ask me, hey, is this a weight loss? Can you use this for weight loss? And the answer is, it's not. PEMF is not a weight loss tool, but energy can be a platform for weight loss.
Sure.
Because when you all of a sudden have more energy in your body, what happens?
Yeah.
You move
You're
more,
moving
you're
more.
You feel
Yeah.
like moving more.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
you can accomplish more. When you
Right.
start to move more and be more active, and now you see a tiny little result from that. Hey, wait a second.
Right.
I feel a little bit better since I've been more active. Maybe I'll be a little bit more active. And then you try to, and then you're more active.
Yeah.
And
The
now
good begets the
you
good. Yeah.
start to think, well, gee, if I'm going to start being more active, maybe it makes sense for me to start thinking about what I'm eating too.
Yep.
Maybe I can
Yeah.
be more active and take off a few pounds at the same time now that I have this energy. And so you're 12 months down the road, you might feel great. You might look better, great by then, maybe. And you never considered PEMF a weight loss tool, but the energy it provided helped you perhaps get there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah.
Totally. I just want to ask this because we are sitting
I was
with
about to say this.
three
Yeah, go ahead.
dogs right now. Can you use PEMF on pets?
So, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Pulse and several other PEMF companies that I'm aware of have, whole lines of animal products.
Okay.
Wow.
And so from horses, it starts with horses. Something about having a $5 million racehorse that you really never wanted to be in any pain and unable to run. Right. So it just lends itself to, the old adage, we spend more on our pets, we spend more on our kids and grandkids than we do on ourselves a lot of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
That also applies in the PEMF world. If you were to peruse the Pulse website, you'd see a whole line of yellow machines, and those are the ones for the
Those
animals.
are for the animals. Okay.
Different accessories and everything,
Yeah.
because it's hard to get a horse into a chair, that kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Right.
And so
You need
we have other
Yeah.
accessories for
That's so interesting.
horses and pets, but sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's funny because the whole equine thing, I also noticed they do, and now it makes sense. You're saying racehorses. I hadn't even really thought about that. I was like, I wonder why they do all of these studies with horses, but even the red light therapy, I was reading something
Yes.
about those devices, and a lot of the testing they do is on.
I used to do that red light on my first dog. When she
You
had
did you?
arthritis.
Yeah. I did try the
Yeah.
red light on Milo the other day just for a minute, but I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this, so
No, it's fine.
I guess it's okay.
Yeah, red light's great. I use it every
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we love stacking it. We love stacking modalities too. And,
Yeah,
kind
I
of biostacking is kind of the next evolution of
Biostacking.
biohacking. And, if you're trying to save time or improve results
Right.
or
Yeah.
both, improved
Yeah.
results in the same amount of time, just looking for that efficiency and that, ROI, return on investment
Right.
for,
That's
your time and investment.
It's so true. I do love that aspect of it. We made a lot of jokes at the biohacking conference, but I do think that there is, this efficiency, this idea of just getting these results quicker, because people, that's
They
what
want
everyone
instant gratification.
wants.
They want to feel
Everyone-
great right away.
right away. And it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like if we have the tools to do these things. I mean, it's different when you're talking about like cheats, when you're talking about like
Yeah.
different hacks. There are some things that I think don't work and they're silly, but I think that something like this, that you could feel the immediate benefits and the effects from, and you're shortening your recovery time, you're shortening, you're improving your resiliency, all of those things I think that's amazing. But so I guess with that said, like, how accessible is PEMF therapy to the general public?
Right.
These devices and things.
Yeah. So again, I mean, the spectrum of products on the market range from maybe a couple $100, $1,000, $1,500. You can get a mat for, $2,000, a decent one. You can get other mats for up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So as you get up in the power and intensity and the sort of tactile sensation, like we talked about earlier, and moving from the frequency resonant, pieces of equipment on the market to the impulsive pieces of equipment, they get more expensive. So Pulse, a company or a product like Pulse, is going to be up into anywhere from about 15 to 45, 50,000. So we're talking, and a lot of people think of that as a clinic type expense, a clinic level, model. However, half of my clients are private. And so it really is just a matter of obviously resources and how seriously, combination of resources and how seriously and maybe how big your family is and how much you're into using this and having it be a foundation. But generally speaking, so getting yourself an actual product, they're all shapes and sizes. Now, I would love to chat with anyone who's in that market because I think I can answer a lot of questions on pros and cons and things like that. And I'm not unrealistic. I know that if you can only certainly budget for a certain level of product, I'm not going to say don't get anything. I'm going to say get something. PEMF is always good. It's great when you're just going to the beach and laying there and getting the sun and getting the earth's resonance. And so I'm a big proponent of the free stuff too. I go out and watch the sunrise every morning. I try to keep my circadian rhythms by sleeping the right number of hours, by not using blue light late at night, by not eating the last 3 hours. So there's tons of things you can do for free that make you a biohacker. You don't have to spend 200 grand to be a biohacker.
Right.
You certainly can. And a lot of them do.
A lot of them do. I was just going to say, well, maybe you should share your client list with me.
I know.
But no, there's plenty of things in nature that people can do for sure. Yeah. But this is just kind of really, kind of next level and the convenience of it, like we live in the Northeast. And so in the middle of the winter, I'm not sticking my feet on the cold ground or on the sand, it's like, I guess I could if I was really
think of it as deliberate cold exposure and, just go out
there
with,
you go.
I could do that.
Very little on and do it like a cold plunge or like a cryo session, right? And if you're doing it barefoot, now you're getting both benefits at the same time. So you're welcome. That's a really good. And I grew up in the Northeast, so and in Chicago too. So I'm a product of cold weather. I live in Atlanta now, so where it's miserably humid a lot of the year. But to your earlier question on access, when you're talking about Pulse specifically, people can, of course, get a device and they would call somebody like me and I would design, a configuration, a package, whether it's a private individual with a family, a biohacker type person, somebody with pets or horses, all the way to the wellness provider who is, using this in their wellness business, whether it's a chiropractic office, functional medicine, integrative, regenerative stem cell doc, biohacking facilities, sports, athletes, pro, teams and athletes, all of that. So I would provide a consultation around getting their own device. You can also rent a device. You can also rent to own. You can also look on the Pulse website for a location near you where you can go and get sessions. And, if you want to test it out that way, if you're interested in potentially getting something for yourself, or you just want to stay on a program at a local office, all those resources are available. And that's sort of for different levels of budget, different levels of how much you want to be committed to it.
Okay. And so for our listeners, would they reach out to you? How would they get information?
Yeah. So the best way to get me is either through my Instagram or just by email. And so my Instagram is @LeHotay Joe. And I can give you guys that if you want to include it.
Sure.
And that's where I put on my link tree, it's all of my channels. It's all of my affiliations. I do have some affiliations with other companies that pair well with Pulse, some consumables like electrolytes and some other technologies like red light, stem cell mobilizing supplements. So things that are either synergistically additive to Pulse, things that can help if you're on a steady diet of Pulse, and things that Pulse can also help make better,
Okay. Great. That's awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks for being here.
This was great.
This was really, really great.
Yeah.
And
I enjoyed
helped to explain
it.
how we were feeling.
It really did. And and just to understand, because even walking around the conference, I was I was like, well, there's EMFs. They're like, no, the EMFs are bad.
bad.
You don't want the EMFs.
You
You want
want
the
the
PEMFs. I'm like, I don't know what the difference is. And now I know. So thank you.
Yes.
Thanks again. Thanks for being here. Great to see you again.
You're welcome. And thank you. It was a lot of fun, you guys.
All right. So that was, now we know why we were feeling the way we were, which I still think I need you to explain it to me. Even though he just did.
He just did. I mean,
know. So interesting.
The difference between like this grounding mat that I have on the floor now and that, I mean, it sounds like the benefits are similar, but I like to actually feel.
I want to feel something.
I want to feel it.
Like the grounding. I agree. You're like,
I'm like, is this working? I don't know.
I'm doing work and my bare feet are on it. I'm like, okay, this is this now.
Don't know.
I don't know if
You're
I
like,
don't know
I'm
what to expect.
doing this because Jen said I should.
Exactly. Totally. That's why I do everything. I do everything because of that.
Meanwhile, you can just go to the beach and put your feet in the sand.
I know.
But no, I did like how he was saying that there are just lifestyle modifications you could make. Not everybody has to go out and buy these devices.
Right.
And you can still get the benefits. But that said, that was a really cool freaking experience.
That was a cool experience. And, you know, we're biohackers.
We're biohackers now. So
biohacking. We're going to live to 180 like Dave Asprey.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to, but
I know. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, we hope you learned a little something new. I know we did. I'm Lori Schulweiss.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
This was Everybody Talks.
Talk to you next time. For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, and to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shuli, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Join the Everybody Talks community by checking out our Patreon page, where you can become an exclusive member of our wellness group and be a part of the conversation.
And don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks Podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweiss and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, and Murray.
Talk to you next time.